why am I selling my favorite camera? There's a couple reasons why it's my favorite camera. And in this video, I'm gonna go over some of those and what I hope to improve with the Blackmagic pyxis. What is my favorite camera, you might ask? Well, it is by the company that some of you may love or hate, is Blackmagic. The big Australian company that makes some pretty kick-ass cameras. Over the past couple of years, I've had a lot of time using different Blackmagic cameras and Sony cameras. A lot of people love the Sony FX3, and I do too, but it is not my favorite camera. I've been using both alongside each other for a long time. I use Canon Sigma lenses with my Blackmagic, which I also use with my Sony FX3, which you're on right now. The reason I do that, because you can use the Sigma MC11 adapter that makes the connection between the Sony body and the Sigma lenses pretty good actually, and keeps the autofocus. But why am I making this video? You might see by the title or the thumbnail. Well, my favorite camera, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro, mouthful and a half. I'm selling it. I haven't put it up for sale yet, but like a lot of hype these days is around the Blackmagic pyxis. There's a couple key reasons why I prefer the Blackmagic over the Sony, and this video is gonna be a little bit about that. Reason number one, I think both cameras' colors are phenomenal, first of all. I'm not saying one is terrible. Just the Blackmagic I prefer. That Gen 5 color and the Blackmagic RAW from the Pocket 6K Pro is amazing. There's certain shoots where I've used both my Sony and the Blackmagic, and yes, I try to make them look like each other, but it just doesn't line up whatsoever. And I end up liking the warm, soft look of the skin and everything, especially in some of these lower light shoots. And the one I'm really referring to is when I'm shooting with the OHL team, Niagara Ice Dogs, here in my area. I'm shooting their media day stuff, and I am so glad I have the Blackmagic. Yes, it's a bit more difficult with the manual focus, which I'll also touch on, but there's something about the color that it's just easier to make it look real high quality, and I prefer it. There's definitely a use case for something like the Sony, especially the FX3. All the weddings I do are on this. I never would on the Blackmagic because of the low light. It has its pros and its cons, but that Blackmagic color is... Next thing up, the difference in the menus for the Blackmagic cameras is night and day. Sony, with their newer cameras, has a way better menu system, but man, there is still something terrible about them. I know it like the back of my hand, but the Blackmagic is still just so much better. Yes, there's a lot less nuance and detail in the menus in the Blackmagic, but the difference in the time it takes to find stuff, and it's so simple, and the customizability as well. This is also a small thing that drives me nuts with Sony's, this is partially the menu. I have it on my reference monitor here. You either get a clean feed or you get that cropped in version with all your menu settings, and it's really low quality. I do not understand, rant time here, why this has been this long and Sony still hasn't done anything about it. I know it's probably the amount of bandwidth going through the HDMI, but something has to be done about more options to see over HDMI. If you've not used a Blackmagic camera, you are missing out. You can customize everything from what is seen on your LCD and what is sent out to HDMI. You can customize whether you want grids, focus peaking, you can separate it or just make it universal. The customization for what's going over the HDMI is amazing. And it comes stock, you don't have to worry about the monitor. The only downside I know with the Blackmagic, unlike the Sony, when you plug in a headphone jack, like for a microphone, it doesn't automatically switch, which the Sony does. So it's a small little gripe. I've forgotten it before, and then I get back from a shoot and it's just no reference audio whatsoever. So had that with a project not that long ago, so I had to completely build out the sound effects from scratch for the project. So my own mistake, but I fixed it. Another reason why I like the Blackmagic more than the Sony, now this is completely subjective and it's completely my opinion. so don't roast me for it. But the funness of using the camera. This is also partially what I was getting at earlier with it being manual focus. So there's something, I can't really explain it, about what makes manually focusing for a project so nice. Like it adds a certain amount of handmade feeling to the project and the footage. I find a lot of times with the Sony, it's very clinical, it's all this, whereas I would say the Blackmagic is very like handmade, like you're really worked for that footage. And there's a certain reward to doing that for your footage, and I like it. I went through a spell where I didn't use the Blackmagic. I used it like 3 times in 2023. There was a couple issues with the Blackmagic still, like the batteries it goes through. That's why I didn't use it. And then when I did again, I gave it another chance, and I'm like loving the manual focus and the slower pace of it. It's so nice, whereas I find when I'm shooting with the Sony, it can be done so quick. I'm forcing myself to be too quick. So yeah, the Blackmagic just generally more fun to film with. Now, I briefly mentioned it earlier, why am I selling this Blackmagic camera then? Well, there's a couple reasons why. The short list is the crop sensor with the lenses I have. Second of all is the mount. Let me explain. I love so many things about that camera, but the lenses I have when I want to use a 24-70, and right away it's a 1.5 times crop on all of it. So I want to get wide shots and I have to use a crazy wide lens for it, which can just be a bit annoying sometimes. So it's a very picky answer, but that's not the biggest one. The biggest issue is the form factor. I can't put the thing on a gimbal, and it's so wide and oddly shaped, and the screen is hard to get at when you put a V-mount on the back, which you have to put on. It's just fundamentally frustrating. And what am I doing to solve that? Well, I am going back and forth between being completely sold on the Blackmagic pyxis 6K, which L-mount can adapt to more, like vintage lenses and stuff like that. It's full frame, the open gate, which I really want, especially shooting dual use footage. I want horizontal and vertical video, and cropping a vertical one out of a frame like this, I feel like I have to shoot stuff crazy wide, which everybody is now. I want to make it a bit different, and I think the open gate would be a huge plus. So I'm debating between the Blackmagic. I partially am scared of having a cinema camera without autofocus, like a real big cinema camera. So that's where I think about the C80. There's also like the Red Komodo, but then it's crop sensor again, just because I want to have the red name. It's tough. So I think the Blackmagic would be the best first step. It's also by far the least expensive. It's like almost half the price of the C80. So I'm undecided yet. I am selling this Blackmagic. It hasn't been used too much, so yeah, if you're seeing this and you want to buy it, let me know. Shoot me a DM. Hopefully nothing was too controversial in this video. Just my opinion. Don't roast me for it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like the video, and send it to your friends and say this guy's an idiot because he likes Blackmagic cameras. Thanks. Bye.